And now let's turn our attention to the US. An unusually hot summer is sweeping the nation. Americans are finding ways to beat the heat. Many of them are venturing to freshwater bodies. Sounds like a summer dream, but for some people, it is turning out to be quite the opposite. They've contracted brain-eating amoeba. That's right, amoeba that devours the brain. And they died from it. It's a rare but deadly infection. If someone catches it, there's a 97% chance of death. Thousands of such cases have been seen across the world. So how can you recognize this infection and how can you avoid it? Our next report tells you.
This is an amoeba. You know, the fascinating shapeshifter. Many of us drew it with precision back in school biology lessons, though not much precision was required, because this is a unicellular organism with the ability to alter shape. Science being science doesn't leave it at that though. It has analyzed different kinds of amoeba and declared several types. One of them is called Naegleria fowleri. It's a famous one. The name sounds slightly complicated, which is probably why it has a nickname, and an apt one. This is called brain-eating amoeba, and it's just as deadly as it sounds. Recently, the amoeba claimed its latest victim, a man in the US state of Georgia. The amoeba destroyed his brain tissue and he died from it, much like the 2-year-old boy from Nevada who died from the infection earlier this month. But before we talk about the latest cases, let's start with the basics. How does this amoeba spread its disease? It infects the body and causes damage to the brain, hence the name. It lives in soil and freshwater lakes, rivers, ponds, and hot springs, basically warm environments. It's not found in saltwater like in oceans or properly treated swimming pools. It enters the body while someone is in the freshwater, like when they're swimming, submerging, or even splashing. The water enters the body through the nose, so does the amoeba, and then it travels to the brain. What do the symptoms look like? They usually come on strong, and they progress rapidly, within 5 days of contracting the disease. They include headache, fever, nausea, and vomiting. Later, the situation worsens and symptoms increase. They progress to stiff neck, confusion, seizures, hallucinations, and coma. And all of this usually leads to death. The infection kills about 97% of the people it infects. It's often a losing battle. There is no consensus on effective treatment against it. Brain-eating amoeba may be fatal and hard to detect. But it is also rare to contract this infection. According to the WHO, anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 cases have occurred globally. They are mainly seen in Australia, Europe, and the US. In the past 5 years, the US has seen 3 cases each year, and cases have been on the rise worldwide. Now, while this amoeba is a cold-blooded murderer, it likes warmth. Because of climate change, our world is heating up, so more places are warmly welcoming this amoeba. For instance, most infections in the US happened during the summer, and they happened in the south. But in the past few years, they have been moving upwards. Infections are cropping up farther north during bouts of extreme heat. Only last year, this amoeba was identified in South Korea for the first time. In India, the first case was detected in 2016 in the state of Kerala. Following this, there have been a few cases in the country, mainly in the southern states. The most recent one also came from Kerala this month. So, more countries are seeing cases of this infection. It's as rare as it's deadly. Since 1962, only 4 people have survived it. So, how can you avoid it? Experts say assume it's present in every freshwater body, so avoid jumping in. But if you can't, try keeping your head above the water, because it could save you, both literally and metaphorically.